Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and we're going to be recapping all of the NFL games for Week 13. Wow, this was a great week. So many interesting, close games. You got the headlines with Watson returning to Houston. You got the headlines with the AFC Championship rematch game, which was a great game, and so, yeah, this was just a great week of football. I know some people might have not enjoyed it, but I enjoyed watching football today. We're gonna start with the Broncos and the Ravens, but I will say before I start, um, it is tough to see some guys like Jimmy Garoppolo and Lamar Jackson go down. I know Lamar Jackson's gonna be okay, but Jimmy Garoppolo's out for the season. Shout out to Brock Purdy. He played a great game today, and it will be the starter the rest of the year for the 49ers. But oh man, what a game that was today for the 49ers. But Lamar Jackson got hurt in this one. They said he's might miss some maybe a couple games. He's like day to week right now. I'm sure what it will end up happening is he'll end up being questionable for their next game against the Steelers, and he'll end up being out. And Tyler Huntley, who finished the game for Lamar Jackson, actually did a solid job. Went 27 for 32 today. Helped them get the win. Got the game-winning rushing touchdown as the Ravens would win 10-9. And would win with 187 yards. Before Lamar left in the early second quarter, Lamar was 3 for 4 with 11 yards. And rushing yards, Huntley had 10 carries, 41 yards, 1 touchdown as well. Andrews had 4 receptions, 53 yards. Russell Wilson had 17 completions, 22 attempts, 189 yards. Latavius Murray had 47 rushing yards. Their tight end, Dulech, I think that's like his name, had 85 receptions yards. And Jerry Jeudy had 65. So what another tough loss to the Broncos. I'd say they're probably officially eliminated from the playoffs. Talking about officially eliminated for the playoffs? What a performance from the Lions to try to keep their season alive, as they beat the Jaguars 40-14. After the Jaguars had some momentum after the Ravens game, the Lions take all that momentum away. Jared Goff had a great game today. 31 for 41, 340 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Their run game was great too. Swift had 14 carries, 62 yards, and one touchdown. Williams had 11 carries, 35 yards, and 1 touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 11 receptions, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DJ Chark Jr. had 5 receptions and 98 yards. For the Jaguars, they'd end up taking Trevor Lawrence out of this game once it was ugly. He got it. Well, no, they didn't take him out of the game. That's not why C.J. Beathard's there. Trevor got hurt at the end of the first half and would come back. But Trevor today was just not playing his best game. Was 17 for 31 with 179 yards and 1 touchdown. ETM had 13 carries, 54 yards. Kirk had 6 receptions, 104 yards. Evan Ingram had 5 receptions, 30 yards, 1 touchdown. Upsetting loss from the Jags. And we have our second tie of the season. The first tie was Week 1, my Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. And now the second tie is the Commanders and the Giants. This was a good game. Went to overtime. Of course, we went to overtime if it tied. Went to overtime. Neither team could get going. The Giants, they finally started getting down the field. Set their kicker up for a 58-yard field goal. It was just short. So tough tie for the Giants as they missed that field goal. I've never heard anybody say tough tie before. That was a tough tie. That's weird. But this was a fun game to watch. Daniel Jones had 25 completions, 31 attempts, 200 yards, one touchdown. He also had 71 rushing yards. Barkley had 18 carries, 63 yards, one touchdown. Slayton had 6 receptions, 90 yards. Hodgins had 5 receptions, 44 yards, one touchdown. For the Commanders, Heineke was 27 for 41, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns. Byron Robinson Jr. had 96 rushing yards. Gibson had 39. McLaurin had 8 receptions, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Samuel had 63. Also, and then Jaheim Dotson had the game-tying touchdown to send it to overtime. Eagles Titans, man, the Eagles just put a pound on the Titans today. They really showed the Titans' true colors today as they won 35-10. Jalen Hurts had a great game, 29 for 39, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sanders didn't have a lot of rushing yards, only 24, but had a touchdown. A.J. Brown against his former team had an excellent game. 8 receptions, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 5 receptions, 102 yards, 1 touchdown. And that was it. Jalen Hurts also had a rushing touchdown as well. This was a really close game. Steelers beat the Falcons 19-16. Steelers get their second win in a row against the Colts and the Falcons. So great win for the Steelers. Mariota went 13 for 24, 167 yards, 1 touchdown. Patterson had 60 rushing yards. Drake London had 6 receptions, 95 yards, and that was really it for them. For the Steelers, Kenny Pickett had a right game. They kind of relied on the running game as well. They kind of relied on the running game, and then their defense was very good in this game. Pickett had 197 yards, 1 touchdown. Harris had 86. Snell had 24. Sims had 19. So what I was talking about, relying on the running game there. That's a lot of rushing yards. Pat Freiermuth had 70 receiving yards, 76 receiving yards. Deontay Johnson had 60. And great story here. Connor Hayward, who is Steelers star Cameron Hayward's brother, catches his first touchdown of his career. And this is really cool that the Steelers, their dad who passed away, Cameron and Connor's dad that passed away, he used to play for the Falcons, so that was a really special moment for them. So that had me in chills when I heard Cameron talk about that. But it's great for those brothers to have that moment together as Connor Hayward catches a touchdown. But great win for the Steelers, 19-16. This was a really good game. Vikings-Jets. Vikings beat the Jets 27-22. The Vikings had a big lead in this one, 20-3. They let the Jets back in, and next thing you know, it's 20-12. And then the next thing you know, it's 20-15. Vikings were able to score a touchdown, but the Jets came back. They scored a touchdown, and the Jets had multiple chances at the goal line, but couldn't score either one on 4th down. Kirk Cousins had 173 yards thrown, 1 touchdown. Dalvin Cook had 86 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Madison had 1. Justin Jefferson had 7 receptions, 45 yards, 1 touchdown. Sauce Gardner finally gave up that touchdown. Jalen Reagor had 1 reception, 38 yards. Hawkinson had 33. They didn't have 27 for the Jets. Mike White, 31 for 57, 369 passing yards. Rushing yards, Knight had 15 carries, 90 yards. Garrett Wilson had 8 receptions, 162 yards. Corey Davis had 5 receptions and 85 yards. Next, we're going to talk about the Texans, the Browns. I already made a post game about this, but if y'all want to check my post game for the Texans, the Browns won 27-14. It was a good game. So y'all can check that out. Packers Bears. This was a fun one. Packers finally get back on the win column, 28-19. Come back down from 16-3. Fields had 254 passing yards, rushing 71 yards and 1 touchdown. St. Brown, the other St. Brown, Ross St. Brown's brother, had 85 receiving yards. Cole Kmet had 72 reception yards. Rodgers had 18. Rodgers was 18 for 31 and 182 yards, one touchdown. A.J. Dillon 18 carries, 93 yards, one touchdown. Christian Watson at the end of the game to seal it had a huge one rush, 46-yard touchdown. Aaron Jones only had 26 rushing yards in this game. Lazard had 67. Christian Watson had 3 receptions, 48 yards, and 1 touchdown, plus his other touchdown. Getting into the afternoon games, we have the Seahawks and the Rams. Great game this was. Seahawks won 27-23. John Wolford had 178 passing yards. Cam Akers had 2 rushing touchdowns in this one. Tutu Atwell had 48 receiving yards. That was really it for the Rams. Geno Smith threw 367, 3 touchdown games, three touchdowns. Lockett had 9 receptions, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. Metcalf had 8 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown. Fan had 4 receptions, 42 yards, 1 touchdown. What a game. The game we were all talking about, the 49ers, the Dolphins, as the 49ers beat the Dolphins 33-17 without Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy had 25 completions, 37 yards, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had 66 rushing yards. Christian also had 8 receptions, 80 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Samuel had 58 receiving yards. For the Dolphins, Tua was 18 for 33, 295 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek had 9 receptions, 146 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Sherfield had 1 reception, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. That was on the first play of the game, 75-yard touchdown. And Waddle only had 1 reception, 9 yards. Bad game from Waddle. Chiefs-Bengals, AFC Championship rematch. The Bengals get the win against the 9-2 Chiefs, 27-24. Burrow threw 25 for 31, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase in his return had 7 receptions, 97 yards. Boyd had 4 and 60. Mahomes threw 223, 1 touchdown. Marcus Stanley had 2 receptions, 71 yards. Kelsey had 4 receptions and 56 yards. Raiders keep their season alive with a big win against the Chargers, 27-20. Derek Carr throws 250, 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs runs in for 144 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae Adams has a huge game, 8 receptions, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chargers, Herbert had 335, 1 touchdown. Eckler had 10 carries and 35 yards. Keenan Allen had 6 receptions, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then Sunday Night Football, what a beating this was. Cowboys beat the Colts 54-19. This was an alright offensive performance from the Cowboys. This was a huge defensive performance. They had like 4 picks. I think they had a fumble or 2. So what a game for the Cowboys defense. Dak had 170 yards, 3 touchdowns. They had 7 touchdowns on offense and they had like 2 touchdowns on defense. So the Cowboys were going crazy tonight. Pollard had 2 rushing touchdowns with 91 yards. Zeke, who was benched in this one, had 77 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Is that Mike Davis? I think that's Mike Davis. That's Mike Davis. No, it's Malik Davis had 3 rushes, 29 yards, 1 touchdown. Lamb had 71 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And for the Colts, Matt Ryan had an awful game, 233, 2 touchdown passes with like 4 picks. Jonathan Taylor had 82 rushing yards. Alec Pierce, the rookie, had a big touchdown, 4 receptions, 86 yards, 1 touchdown. And Paris Campbell had 4 receptions and 43 yards. That was really it. Great week of football. A lot of interesting stuff happened this week, and set up for the playoffs. As some things in some of the things affected some of these games affected the playoffs. With the Chiefs' loss, the Bills are number 1 in the AFC. With the Dolphins lost and the Bengals win, the Bengals moved up to 5. The Dolphins moved down to 6. So Seahawks are back in the playoff picture with the win, and the tie by Washington and New York got Washington out because Seattle won too. So there was a lot of things that affected in the playoffs today, and I think next week should even affect it even more. But interesting football today, and peace out. Let me know your thoughts. Great week of football.